Hey everyone, Joe Conkley in the shop. Today we're going to take yet another look at the 1937 D-18 project that I've been working on. We removed the neck the last time. I've got that all cleaned up. I previously glued up my cracks. I also re-glued the bridge, as you can see here. It's on there ready to go. Today, mostly what I want to do is look at changing this neck angle. First thing I needed to do is to sharpen up a couple of chisels. So I'm using my Japanese water stones. There are two different grits on each stone, a medium and a fine. They live in this water bath. Then all I got to do is pull one out, set it on the lid and go for it. I usually start with flattening the flat face. I go from the rough to the fine stone, and then I use this honing guide. It actually has some information right there on it about chisel projection. What they're talking about is you fit it in there like so, and how much of the chisel sticks out. You tighten her down. That allows me to put it on the stone like so and roll it back and forth on this wheel. There is the hollow ground, 25-degree angle and the 30-degree angle. And after I get that done, do a little bit on this leather strop, which has been loaded with jeweler's sharpening rouge, and just a couple of strokes on there, and I should be able to shave the hairs right off of my wrist here. I got these two guys sharpened up and ready to go. So back to the guitar. Let's take a look at what kind of angle we've got right now. So I just hold it in there. It's very loose. You can see I'm just holding it in there, grabbing my nice long straight edge, and I'm going to set that on the center and project that down to the bridge. What I'm looking for when I'm done here is something like this, where the straight edge projects right down to the top of the bridge, and a little bit more, about a 30-second more. We can see right now that it is hitting about in the middle of that bridge. So that means I have to remove some material from the heel, right at the heel cap here, and taper that up to this point right here. This is going to be my fulcrum point right here. That's going to allow the neck to move back that way. As I do that, it changes this fit. It makes it even looser. So there's three parts to this. I'm going to first remove material and try to keep it as good a fit as I can. The fit being these cheeks, as we call them, of the heel, fitting as perfectly as possible against this side of the guitar. And so while I'm changing the angle, my goal is to maintain a reasonable fit and not get too far out of fit. So I take material off the heel and then I project it down to a 0 point right here, where the neck and the fingerboard and the body of the guitar right there, that corner would meet. And then, so once I get the angle I want, I make the fit, I clean up the fit and make sure that's perfect. And then I have to make some shims to go to make up that difference, because I've changed that angle of how it's fitting in there. Usually what that does is loosen up the bottom of the tenon here, so that I should end up with some shims in here that are thicker on the bottom and thinner on the top. So they tighten up that bottom part of the dovetail for me and allow the neck to fit in all the way flush. So as you change that angle, you create a space here on the fingerboard extension. As you do this, you create space here. So then you have to consider the possibility of a tapered shim underneath the fingerboard extension, so that you minimize that drop off here. Because if you don't do anything, you can get a pretty severe change. Because this will, this fingerboard will bend somewhere right up in here. You can clamp it down. And that's one thing you can look at when you're looking at a guitar. See if it hasn't had a neck reset before. If it has a severe drop off, there's a possibility the neck has been reset without the fingerboard extension. And down. There's a fair amount of discussion about how to do that, what material to use, whether that is a good thing, you know, because what you get from that is when you sight down the neck, you get a fairly straight projection all the way to the end, you know. You still want a little bit of drop off there, but nothing extreme. But you also get from the side here, the fingerboard would appear normal thickness right here between the 14th and the 15th fret, and then be thicker down here. So it's a mix of things that you get, and I guess ideally in my mind you get fingerboard extension, you know, fairly straight projecting out over without, but you also don't get too thick of an end to it, you know. And one thing that I'm going to do to this instrument, as we discussed way at the beginning, it is in dire need of a refret for several reasons. So that allows me, once I get the neck set in there, to pull all the frets and then sand and true that fingerboard over its full length and minimize and you know, make some changes here to this fingerboard extension projection and any number of other things. We'll talk about that further. So let's get going. So there's definitely a fair amount of material that needs to be removed. Just from experience, I know that if I take about 30 thousandths off here, that's a good place to start, given that I have to, as much angle as I have to change. So I just got my dowel calipers here. I got them to 30 thousandths. I'm just going to scribe that line right across the back edge of the heel there, just to give me a place to start removing that material. You can see that little scribe line just is in the finish there. That gives me a place to start. So here we go. Just going to pare that material off little by little down to that scribe line or close to it. Cut. Now I'm going to try to, you know, send that up to my 0 point room. One thing that I did in cleaning these up, I also back cut this area here, which is it starts off, you know, fairly square to this center line, let's say. And what I did is I took some material off like this. So in the corner here, there's a fair amount of material off, and it tapers up to 0 around that edge. And now I'm actually taking that, and so there's fresh wood that's all cleaned up there, but around a 32nd of an inch all the way around the edge, I can still see the little bit of finishing glue is on there from when I removed it. Martin guitars and their numerous copies, the idea is that you are gluing, you put glue on this tenon, on this fingerboard extension, and the same thing in here, just glue along those front edges and that, so there is no glue specifically right there and right there, so that to remove the neck, if you remember, I pulled the 15th fret, drilled 2 holes down in there into the space that exists on the back side of this and the back side of that. That gets steam down in there, and that allows that steam to creep into this glued area, but I don't have to worry about ungluing this stuff. There's other manufacturers, Gibson being the first one that comes to mind, where they have a slightly different design to the heel of the neck, and it's part of their construction process where the neck goes onto the guitar before the guitar is finished. So, and so that they have a square heel rather than this V-shaped, tapered, curved heel, so that the heel cap is wider. And they glue those cheeks right to the side, which makes the removal quite a bit more challenging, because that is an area that I don't have to touch when I'm, as far as making some way for the glue to get into that. And on a Martin, of course, it's a very small area. But on a Martin, it has this V-shaped tapered thing, so the area right there is very small, and I can just maintain a nice clean line there. So basically I'm not trying to glue that part to the face. And it just makes the whole process of removing the neck and resetting it a little cleaner, a little more straightforward, because as I mentioned, Martin creates the body and the neck, then they fit the neck to the body without gluing it, as I'm doing here. Then they separate the two and send those two pieces on through the rest of the construction process, where they finish the neck, spraying the finish on, and usually they would tape off these areas so no finish gets in here. Then those two pieces would meet up at a later point in the construction process for the neck to be put on, and that just allows for a more straightforward removal and neck angle change. So it's a forward-thinking idea there. They're thinking about maintaining the guitar over your lifetime. So anyhow, back to cutting this. Do the other side here also. Now I need to check what I just did. I need to fit that on there and see how things are going. And so I've got a pretty good gap here at the heel. I just need to take more material off. And taking a little bit of material off, checking it back and forth, back and forth. Every once in a while I'll throw the straight edge on there to see how much the angle is changing. And all I'm looking to do is to continue back cutting these cheeks so that I maintain that. Because it's not glued, it doesn't have to fit perfectly. That's why I can back cut it. And what I'm trying to do is to make this outside edge the first thing that touches that. And so it just makes it easier for me to get that perfect fit, because I only have to, and it also keeps it from getting glued too tightly. Although there is finish on the instrument right here, that's one thing that keeps it from getting glued too tightly. Someone else will be able to remove this neck with proper technique and relative ease down the line. But so I set the neck up there, and I know where it's touching, and where there's a gap. Where it's touching, I remove a little more material. Where it's gap, I don't. Where there's a gap, I don't remove any. And there are other removal techniques that sort of refine the process as I get closer to the angle that I want while maintaining this fit. Get my little brush here to just clean things up. trying to get to here is a point where I have took material off that heel, and then I continue to take material off these sides here. I want to get that heel back down flush here and maintain the fit while I'm doing that, and see what kind of neck angle I have when I'm done with that process. That would be sort of a first stopping point, and then I would continue to take more off the heel and repeat that process as necessary. I'm almost there. Usually what I do, I put the neck up here and check it. I try to note 2 spots that are, I need to have material taken off, and just really concentrate on those 2 spots. Sometimes only 1 spot. It's pretty close right there. I think that's a pretty good time to stop and see where we're at. So I'm taking material off here, making this smaller, and I'm not taking any material off here. There is a small gap between the back side of this and the back side of the cavity, but at some point I'm going to close that gap at the bottom here. So at some point I'm going to have to remove a little material off the bottom of the back side of the dovetail pinion so that I can again maintain that fit. But that's the process. Super sharp chisels to pare that wood off little by little, nice and clean without chipping any finish out on the outside edge here. It looks pretty good, and that's the first part of the process. I will continue to do that work. When I've established the angle and all I have to do is make that fit perfect, there's a couple other tools that I use, a couple other parts of the process. Just sandpaper is the main thing to minimize the amount of material you're taking off, and only take it in the right places to get that perfect fit, and I'll show you that at a later date. I think that's what we've got for you today here in the shop. Resetting the neck on the 1937 D-18 and sharpening the chisels, cleaning it up a little, all those things. Stay tuned, like us on Facebook and Instagram and all those other platforms, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks in the shop.